314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Dive into adventure with Great American Divers. We're your local veteran-owned scuba center offering PADI certification courses, equipment repairs, and dive travel opportunities. From beginners to experts, we got you covered. Kids can join our SEAL Team classes, and we even host pool parties. Our experienced staff is passionate about teaching, and we're the only center in the area with our own indoor heated pool. Great American Divers on Central School Road in St. Charles. Visit greatamericandivers.com. Great American Divers, where adventure runs deep.
I think you're a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
101.9 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth anywhere but here. News Talk STL.
News Talk STL.
Hey, let me tell you about a place that I don't just endorse. I actually go there myself, and I enjoy going there. It is the Dental Link. The Dental Link is run by the good Dr. Alan Link and his son, Andrew. And what I love about it, it doesn't feel like a dentist office, one of those cold clinical places. It feels like a place where people actually enjoy working there. And you can tell because just how Dr. Link treats his staff. Everyone loves working there. Now, for me, this is personal. I've had dental implants done there. That's not a small thing. That's serious dental work. They walk me through the whole process step by step. No pressure, no confusion, just straight answers and making sure I was comfortable the whole time. If you've been putting something like this off because you're nervous, I get it, but here's what you should know. They offer many dental implants, which are less invasive, they're quicker recovery, and a lot less discomfort than a traditional route. I tell you this, getting my dental implants done was a game changer. They look natural, they feel natural, and honestly, it gave me a level of confidence back I didn't even realize I was missing. I went into a store that I frequent recently, and the guy told me I had pretty teeth. I was taken aback by that a little bit, but that's the good work that Dr. Link does. So if you've been thinking about dental implants or any type of dental work, just go talk to them. The Dental Link is located in Baldwin, right there at 141 and Manchester. You can give them a call at 636-496-8584, or you can check them out at thedentallink.com, thedentallink.com. Do good, do it well, have fun doing it. That's their motto.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We are closely tracking the results of yesterday's key primary elections. In Minnesota, CBS News projects the state's progressive Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan defeated moderate Congresswoman Angie Craig in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. But in Wisconsin, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley is projected to have narrowly beat out Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong in the primary contest for governor. In South Carolina, Senator Darlene Graham will face Congressman Ralph Norman in a Republican runoff for late Senator Lindsey Graham's seat. Of course, this is his sister who's running.
Primary election roundup. Yes, the primaries are still happening around the country. Very interesting results there that we'll be talking about and more today on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Welcome to Wednesday afternoon show. Happy Hump Day. You're almost over it. August the 12th, 2026, 4:06 in the p.m. Central Time here in the Heartland. I'm Tim. There's Chris as well. He's here too. Chris Arps.
I am here. Joey is here. And
special guest.
We have a new producer that is starting this week. He is Lauren. Lauren, say hello to everybody.
Well, hello. Hi. Hi, News Talk STL. How are you?
Listen to that voice.
Yeah, right.
It's like Jim Modulin walked in here. Yeah. Very good. Producer Lauren's going to be helping out on all of our programs, assisting as needed, and maybe, I'm sure, running a few in the near future as well. Always have people, look, Chris, I know everybody loves our beautiful faces that were made for radio or TV, and that they think we make all the magic, but it's the producers that make you and I shine every single day. They cover up the little mistakes and the glitches so nobody ever notices them, and they do so much prep and post work on all of our products.
They make the show run. I remember during the pandemic when station owner Jeff, our leader, was going to cross-train all of us talk show hosts on how to use the board. That kind of fell by the wayside, but I'm so lucky that that didn't happen because I was terrified of trying to run the board. I look at all those buttons and knobs and everything, and I'm like, I would never, ever understand how to do that. So I admire what you guys do. It's a miracle to me to, semi-pay attention to us while we're doing the show, but also have to do the technical stuff behind the mic. So I admire you, and thank you, Lauren, and a long, successful career here at News Talk STL.
Indeed. The family continues to grow, and the producers also do, you don't see all the work they do behind the scenes. There's a ton of work that goes into preparing the show, and there's a ton of post-production work with the podcasts that have to be put up. Joey makes the really cool memes and graphics of Chris and I every day. He helps put together the newsletter. We do a ton of digital work. So for those of you who think we're just an old-fashioned radio station, we're honestly a 21st century media company now. We stream on every digital streaming platform that you could imagine because, as Jeff Allen always says, choice kills, and therefore we have to be everywhere that we think people might be. So whether you listen to us on terrestrial radio, FM transmitters, streaming devices, smart speakers, our app, which I hope everybody's downloaded by now, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram. It's amazing, Chris, that you and I grew up with, little transistor radios by our bedside, and now there's all kinds of wild ways to listen to a radio program.
Yeah. And I think Joel will admit the hardest part of his job is when we have contests and people call in and we tell him we'll take caller 25, and Joey has to answer every one of those phone calls while also producing the show at the same time.
I think he just takes caller 3.
That's a trade secret. I'm going to get into that right now.
Indeed. Chris, we got a lot of wrap-up to do as far as the
night.
Election results, and we had some big news this afternoon. Carolyn Levitt, who just had, I think, her second child, has decided, you know what, I'm going to be a mom first. I respect her decision very much, and she's going to be heading out of the White House. But last night, we had primary election results, interesting Democratic results, interesting Republican results. What caught your attention?
What caught my attention was, oh, my God, the MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, lost his race for Republican governor primary. Mike Lindell, I would have loved to have seen him governor of Minnesota. They've had some very colorful governors over the past. Jake the Body Ventura, of course, was an independent governor of Minnesota quite a few years back. But not too many surprises. Lindsey Graham's sister in South Carolina, she is heading to a runoff in a couple of weeks. I did a Chris's Corner yesterday about the candidate, Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, who's running for that open Senate seat. She castigated the congresswoman who was running against her. You remember I put this in a Chris's Corner, that it was disqualifying to vote for the Laken-Riley Act. That tactic apparently worked because she did lose her race. And probably the other biggest surprise for the left, the Democratic DSA wave hit kind of a roadblock yesterday in Wisconsin. Francesca Hong, she is the candidate that said that we should get rid of Thanksgiving, and she wanted to abolish prisons, lost her race to a young man who was in the race before, then dropped out and got back in. I think he's the county executive of Milwaukee, or one of those major cities there in Wisconsin. He eked out a victory against her.
At
1 point, I think it's a big telltale sign, again, is that AOC and Bernie Sanders did not campaign for Francesca Hong. Even she was out far to the left, even for them.
How crazy must you be if you can't get the endorsement of AOC and Bernie Sanders?
Yeah. And, the excuse that they're using was that they were focusing on congressional races, not governor races. And you also hear, we talked about in the first district, how AOC and Bernie Sanders not come and campaign for Cori Bush. They're picking their winners and losers, and I think they saw that those two were losers.
Yep. So people need to know that just because it's the bright new shiny object, the DSA, that doesn't mean they automatically are going to win every single race. Now, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, people who like America in general should be aware of the DSA. They should work against the DSA. It's an un-American, unpatriotic, communist group. But don't think that just because they're the bright new shiny object that they're just going to coast in and win every race. The polling really missed on that race. I heard it was off by 14 points or more. However, you did have the late breaking news that came out just over the last few days that this Hong woman hated Thanksgiving, wanted to basically eradicate everything's America. Bernie and AOC specifically said they were not. It was like a non-endorsement. And so there was a signal to the uber left and some of the more progressive folks that this was not the ideal choice. And so she lost by 1 point to a more traditional Democrat.
Yeah, and I think the DSA should take a lesson out of this. Wisconsin is a swing state. It is a purple state. I think the voters in Michigan are not going to elect El Sayed as a senator from Minnesota. I know a lot of Democratic leaders should be worried about what happened in Wisconsin, that in a border purplish state, the DSA candidate was rejected.
Mm-hmm. We're going to be we'll be following this throughout the year, rest of the year, because as you know, News Talk STL continues to be your number one live and local conservative talk station in the Eastern Missouri region, St. Louis and beyond, for all things election 2026. Hope you caught Tony Colombo and Vic Porcelli's live coverage of the primary election night. I know that Tony will be doing that again in November because we'll be tracking all these midterms, these gubernatorial races, these Senate races. We're going to see how the DSA candidates hold up. Hopefully they don't against some of the more traditional Republican folks, but we're heading quickly towards November. South Carolina, Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham, won in the runoff along with Ralph Norman, congressman, member of the U.S. House Freedom Caucus. It was pretty split between the three of them. Darlene came in first, Norman a fairly close second, and then the third place candidate, I think, got 17 or 19%. I don't know where that third place finisher's numbers go. It'll be interesting to see if Ms. Graham gets the Lindsey Graham sympathy vote and cruises to victory, or whether the more well-known Ralph Norman will be the next U.S. Senator.
Yeah, I think Ms. Senator Graham's biggest obstacle was getting through the primary. I think Donald Trump's endorsement, of course, helped. I think that since she did win the primary, I think that she is a heads-on bet to win the general election or the runoff election, in a couple of weeks, especially with Donald Trump's endorsement.
Donald Trump has not missed much in these midterm elections as far as the GOP primaries, but as you mentioned, the pillow guy, Mike Lindell, Chris, came in a very surprising, far distant second. And I had a lot of friends of mine in Minnesota tell me, look, we love what Mike Lindell's done for the movement, but if he wins the primary, we're going to get crushed in the general. He's just a very polarizing figure. And so a lot of the Republicans up there are happy that he did not win the primary.
Yeah, Minnesota is a Democratic-leaning state. I think Mike Lindell is known for the election denial situation back in 2020. I think people think that he is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I did not see him winning the primary at all. I did see a video of him this morning where he was raising allegations that possibly this was fraud involved in his election. Didn't make an outright allegation, but he said that his team would be looking into it because some late-breaking votes came in against him. And I'm like, yeah, Mike, that's how elections happen. Votes come in from different areas of state that maybe not be as strong for you, and that's why he lost, my friend.
I think he lost by nearly 20 points, too. So it wasn't like that arguable. So what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about some legal matters, of course, because it is a Wednesday with Zack Smith, our senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Joey mentioned this yesterday. I can't remember if it was at the end of the show or if it was when we were off air already. Former gang leader accused of ordering Tupac Shakur's killing is on trial. When did that Didn't that happen decades ago?
Yeah, I think he was killed 96, and it's been a long time mystery of who killed Tupac. And the break in the case came when this local gang leader actually wrote a book bragging about orchestrating the murder of Tupac, and authorities used his book to indict him. And we'll see what Zack Smith, popular culture legal guy, thinks about Tupac finally getting some justice.
That's right. Zack is a Instagram star now,
Yes.
isn't he? Yes. We'll also discuss Donald Trump bringing the Trump ballroom fight to the Supreme Court, possibly. Speaking of the Supreme Court, Justice Samuel Alito put all the rumors to bed. He said he will stick around for yet another term on the bench and more. All of that with Zack Smith coming up in just a few moments. Our senior legal fellow, the Legal Eagle Update from the Heritage Foundation. What's up on Chris's Corner today?
Yeah, we're going to talk about when the FBI protected Biden instead of investigating him. We've heard many things about the deep state and how they were against President Trump, trying to orchestrate illegal things against him. Just the News had an interesting story about how the FBI was protecting Joe Biden and his family. We'll dive more into that at 4:45 on Chris's Corner.
The more that we learn about the Biden administration, the worse it looks. 507, go woke, go broke. Yeah, apparently it is possible to be too woke even for AOC. We're seeing the reinvention of AOC right before our very eyes. Is it real, or is it just in regards to running for president possibly in 2028? Go woke, go broke at 507. 525, Tiffany Smiley, founder of Endeavor PAC, will be joining us. That name looks familiar. Have we had her on before, Joey V?
We have not, but I just reached out to the RNC and they said we have a bright young new star who's got all the answers, and she's an attractive young woman. So I guess that's why she's on all of the TV stations lately. If you look at her Facebook, she's been on Fox as yesterday, I think.
Oh, very good. Thoughts on last night's primaries, who her Endeavor PAC is backing in blue and purple states, and we'll get Tiffany's thoughts on whether the DSA rally is a moment in time or something that's going to be a lasting problem for the Democratic Party. Chris, we got 545, always a jam-packed segment as well.
Yeah, Americans named this, and it will surprise you, as a leading risk to their safety.
Oh, leading risk to safety at 545. And, of course, we will tell you what's coming up on Larry Connor's USA, specifically what today's story behind the story will involve. Wow, we've got a jam-packed Tim Jones and Chris Arps show today. Great guests, great content, lots to keep you up to speed on as you're heading home or out and about this afternoon. Drink lots of water. Chris, it is hot outside.
It is hot, but it's cooled off a little bit from what it's been the last few days. But it's very humid, I think, because it's a little overcast and temperatures are down just a little bit.
Drink lots of water. Get those pets indoors. All right, next up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, Zack Smith with the Heritage Foundation Legal Eagle Update here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a low risk for an isolated storm this evening. Another chance for an isolated storm on Thursday as well, and another hot day. The First Alert weather days for intense heat and humidity continue. The low 80 Thursday morning, and then a high of 96. Heat index to 106. Clouds and maybe a storm could make it a little cooler, but I wouldn't count on it. Again, the rain chance only about 20%. Friday looks dry and hot, partly cloudy with a high of 98 and a heat index to 106. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
Lots of celebrations coming up as we get into late summer and early fall, right? People get engaged, people get married. You always got birthdays and special anniversary celebrations. Where can you get fine things for the fine people in your life? Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, of course. They can be found 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. That's Newsteaders Fine Jewelers at wowdiamonds.com. This is a family-owned, locally owned, independently owned jewelry store that has been based here in the St. Louis region since 1961. You hear that a lot on our station. The majority of our advertisers, I believe, are family-owned, independently owned, or locally owned, and most of them are now multi-generational family businesses. That staying power should tell you something. It should tell you that you should go and shop there, right? So if you're looking for fine jewelry, you know that Newsteaders is going to have that Newsteaders touch, that family touch, that generational family touch of people that live here, work here, they raise their families here. They have special people in their lives that they buy stuff for, and so you can trust them. And jewelry is something that you want to be trusting, because a lot of us, we're not experts in jewelry and diamonds and things of that sort. The Newsteaders folks are. They're honest, they're trustworthy, they're wonderful Christian people, and they're good folks as well. They've got a beautiful store at 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, 2 miles just a little bit to the west of Interstate 270, and 24/7. They're at wowdiamonds.com. They've got diamonds lab-grown in mind. They've got pearls. They've got bracelets. They've got all the birthday gemstones. They've got beautiful earrings for the ladies. They got awesome watches for the guys. They've got everything at Newsteaders and so much more. They can repair jewelry. They can refurbish jewelry. They can create jewelry for you. They can create legacy items for your family. You're not going to get that from most of the big box stores, if any of them at all. Go to a store where you are in charge, where you are the important person, where you are someone that they want to see time and time again, and they want you to bring in the next generation of your family as well. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers at wowdiamonds.com. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers at wowdiamonds.com.
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common-sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
When I was young, me and my mama had beef, 17 years old, kicked out on the streets. Though back at the time, I never thought I'd see her face. Ain't a woman alive that could take my mama's place. Suspended from school, I'm scared to go home.
And Death Row Records founder Suge Knight had a lot to say about the Tupac Shakur murder trial during a jailhouse interview with TMZ. Knight was in the car with Tupac the night he was shot on the Strip in September of 1996.
This was assassination. It wasn't over no chain. It wasn't over no colors. This was assassination. Nobody really wants the truth.
Knight says he won't name names, but claims many others were involved in Tupac's killing. He is on the witness list to testify.
Oh, it's all perfectly legal. You are out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order.
Zack Smith, legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation.
You know, I ask you a lot of predictions. Can you predict what the Supreme Court probably will do with this action? And on the line, Zack Smith, senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and aspiring TMZ reporter. Zack, tell the truth. When Dear Mama was playing before we came in, you were rapping the lyrics along with the song, weren't you?
It's only a good thing we're on radio and not TV, Chris. That's all I can say. So.
All right, let's dig into this Tupac Shakur murder. Tupac was murdered probably almost 30 years ago. They finally have a suspect. Apparently, Zack, that this suspect was determined because foolhardily he wrote a book about the assassination, kind of admitting that he was in charge of orchestrating it.
Yeah, it actually gets worse than that, Chris. You're right. It's been almost 30 years since Tupac's murder. I think the fact that this case is going to trial should remind everyone that there is no statute of limitations in most states when it comes to murder charges. But what happened about 10, 12 years, late 2000s, after Tupac's murder, a man named Dwayne Davis, he's in prison on some unrelated charges, and as part of trying to cut a deal with prosecutors and police at that time, he gave an interview. And during that interview, he implicated himself in Tupac's murders, making many of the claims that essentially he set up the murder, that he was in the car, that he provided the gun, other types of things, generally saying that he was responsible for Tupac's murder. Now, the reason he wasn't prosecuted at that time is because he struck an immunity deal with prosecutors before he talked to them, meaning that anything he told them during that interview, he couldn't be prosecuted for. And so after the interview, even though he didn't incriminate himself, he went free, and that should essentially have been the end of the matter, except, as you mentioned, Chris, apparently Mr. Davis couldn't help himself, and in 2019, he felt compelled to write a tell-all. Now, in hopes of, I guess, selling more books, he included many of those same details that he'd previously told police, except this time he didn't have immunity. His immunity agreement didn't cover the details in the book, so prosecutors took him into custody, and he is now facing trial. He says that he didn't really do the things he said in the book. He was just embellishing to sell more books, that he didn't even write the book, that his co-author basically wrote it and he just signed off on it without ever really looking at the content of it in any great detail. That seems like a tough sell to make, but we'll have to wait and see what happens as that Tupac murder trial kicks off in Las Vegas this week.
So, Zach, I'm really interested in this because, and you may not know the answers, and I haven't looked into the nuance of this either, but I'm wondering how still with immunity he could be tried for something for which he was arguably given immunity for, because, you know, Zach, there's the old saying, the Latin phrase, the corpus delicti, right? So why would, just because he told different facts about the same potential alleged murder, how do they then try him for something that they arguably gave him immunity for disclosing about earlier? Do you know the answer to that, or what's their theory of the case on this?
Well, I'll put in a shameless self-plug. I posted a video actually talking about this on my Instagram and YouTube at Zack on Law. That's at ZACK on Law. You can follow me on X at TZ Smith, where I talked about this as well. But generally, as I understand the terms of this immunity agreement, anything he said during the course of that interview would be covered. But then if he told those facts or embellished and expanded on them like he did in the book, that information would not be covered. And as you know, Tim, a lot of the facts, those embellishments, they're inextricably intertwined with the other facts. You have to tell a jury some of those other facts. Otherwise, the additional facts won't make sense. And so, unfortunately, by repeating that information, unfortunately for Mr. Davis, not for those who seek justice, a lot of that information is going to come in at trial. Now, here's one thing, I talk about this on my video, that we won't know as a result of this trial. We won't know who is actually the trigger man. Who actually pulled the trigger to kill Tupac, because that's not what prosecutors are alleging in this case. Under Nevada's murder statute, simply facilitating, aiding the crime being necessary for the murder to be completed, that's enough to be convicted of murder, and that is essentially what the prosecutors are alleging in this case.
Speaking with Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zack, how difficult will it be able to try this case? Is the book enough to convict him? I mean, this case is 30 years old. Witnesses die. Witnesses' memories, of course, get fuzzy after 30 years. Will this be a difficult case to try for against this gentleman?
Well, I think you're right. There will be some interesting witness wrangling. You may see some high-profile witnesses. Suge Knight is obviously thought to have some information relevant to Tupac's murder. He's currently serving a stint in prison in California. He has said he will not testify, even if called to do so. We'll have to wait and see if that holds up. Some have suspected that Sean Combs, P. Diddy, may be called to testify. He's currently serving time for a federal sentence. right now. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Look, I think the most difficult fact that Mr. Davis, the defendant in this case, is going to have to overcome is he essentially admitted the key facts related to this. Now, he can now say, I didn't really mean that, or I lied to sell more books. What I told police originally, that wasn't really true. That seems like a very tough sell to make. But again, we'll have to wait and see what actually comes out during the course of the trial.
Zach, do you know why Suge Knight won't testify?
Snitches get stitches.
Oh,
Chris.
very good, Zach. Very good. So. That's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. I don't know if that helped my street credit at all, Chris, but I'll take what I can get.
It did.
You spit that right out. Let me tell you.
Quickly.
Zach, the embattled and nefarious Southern Poverty Law Center is back in the news on a criminal case of its own. Zach, we always wonder if congressional hearings are ever going to lead to accountability. There was that big congressional hearing about the Southern Poverty Law Center recently and the fact that they were maybe ginning up some of the very alleged racism that they were allegedly embattling. Basically, they were basically the arsonist setting the blaze and then acting like the superhero and putting out the fire. Well, now, Zach, a former Southern Poverty Law Center finance officer has been arrested on fraud charges over payments to white supremacist informants. Zach, maybe there will be some justice and not just a never-ending series of oversight hearings on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, look, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Again, this is breaking news, obviously. The individual, essentially, she's been charged, as I understand it, with fraud charges, essentially. At a general level, the allegations, not necessarily against this employee, but against the SPLC, was that essentially they were defrauding donors. They were saying they were taking money to combat these hate groups, to help, bring about, combat racism, racial stereotypes in the United States, and yet at the same time they were funding groups that were promoting just the opposite of those things. And so, as I understand, this employee in particular has been charged with fraud-related crimes related to some of those payments. Some of the allegations are that she was paying informants inside white supremacist groups. Apparently, one of the allegations is that she was actually living and had a romantic relationship with that member of the white supremacist group at that time. So we'll have to, again, this is breaking news. I'm sure more sordid details will come out. Now, to be fair, she is presumed innocent, as are all criminal defendants. Her lawyer has said that she denies the charges against her, but certainly the allegations as presented do not bode well, I suspect.
Zach, we have a development in the Luigi Mangione case. He, of course, allegedly murdered the United Healthcare CEO. The judge overseeing his state murder trial said the jury will be anonymous. How often does this happen? And give us your thoughts on that development.
Yeah, it happens from time to time. Obviously, in high-profile trials, you're always worried about threats to jurors, juror intimidation, that sort of thing. And I suspect after the trial is over, if any of the jurors want to talk to the media, they'll probably be free to do just that. But look, with the national attention this case has garnered, I suspect there are concerns about threats to jurors, to others involved in the case. Obviously, Mangione, unfortunately, has a lot of fervent followers who are very keen to try to curry favor with him and his other supporters. And so I think, I suspect everyone involved in this trial is going to go rightfully to very extreme measures to make sure that everyone involved is protected from harm.
Speaking with Zach Smith, he's our senior legal eagle, senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zach, looks like Justice Samuel Alito has put all of the recent rumors to rest as far as the next Supreme Court term. He announced today that he will remain on the bench for at least one more term. He take these one term at a time, right, Zach? The President Trump, issued a statement that he was very happy to hear that. That's good. That's good news too, Zach, right? For all of us who appreciate constitutional originalists on the high court.
Look, Justice Alito, Justice Thomas, they are two great Americans. They are two of the thought leaders on the court in a lot of different areas. So I'm thrilled to hear that Justice Alito is going to stay on the court for another year. I'm looking forward to, he actually has a book coming out that's supposed to be released right around the time that the Supreme Court is going to come back in session at the beginning of October and begin hearing cases once again, where he is going to talk about his views of the law, originalism, what it means. He's from time to time referred to himself as a practical originalist. He's going to expound on that legal theory a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to that book coming out, and I'm looking forward to having another year of Justice Daniel Alito on the Supreme Court.
Zach, the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel has released a memo that determines that the president can make executive privilege claims extending to messages his advisors have with private advisors, quote unquote. Usually executive privilege is only applied to people within the executive branch. How big of a deal is this?
Well, I think certainly those on the left are going to try to seize on it to attack President Trump and his administration. Now, to be fair, again, I haven't had a chance to read this OLC opinion yet. But, the way you might think about this, Chris, is to analogize it. A lot of times when you come to a lawyer, you hire a lawyer to help you with legal problems. The lawyer, in turn, may have to retain a CPA. They may have to retain other auditors, other professionals to help them be able to provide good legal advice to you, to be able to provide strategic advice to you. And so essentially, as I understand it, what the president and his team are arguing is a similar type of situation where the president's advisors may need outside expertise in certain areas in order to provide good advice to the president. Now, we've certainly seen litigation over claims of executive privilege the past several years. Keep in mind, essentially, that's why Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro went to prison because they refused to divulge information to members of Congress citing that executive privilege. So this, I'm sure, will be litigated at some point. But one of the things you've seen the Trump administration doing is really reasserting a lot of executive authority that previous administrations had allowed Congress and the courts to really interfere with in a lot of ways. So we're having long overdue, much needed discussions about the appropriate role of each of our three branches of government.
Mm-hmm. And Zach, the Supreme Court has been weighing in a lot of ways on a lot of different decisions involving executive power. Some issues that Trump didn't necessarily cause, but yet have been kind of brewing for multiple presidencies, Democrat and Republican, right?
Oh, well, look at the Trump versus Slaughter case. Look at the case involving Lisa Cook. These are discussions that go all the way back to FDR, even before FDR, in some instances, about how much power Congress can essentially take away from the president without interfering with his Article II duties under the Constitution. And in the Slaughter case, I think President Trump and his legal team were absolutely correct to say that the system Congress had set up, trying to insulate certain appointed officials from removal, that violated the Constitution. And the Supreme Court agreed with President Trump and his legal team in that respect. So, yes, that is a big win for the rule of law. That is a big win for presidential power for members of either party going forward. But again, these are long overdue and much needed conversations in many instances.
And finally, Zach, the Supreme Court has set its November calendar. A case they've added is a Catholic preschool excluded from Colorado's universal pre-K program over the school's LGBTQ policy views. Tell us more about this case.
Chris, it must be something about the thin mountain air in Colorado because for some reason, Colorado keeps coming back to the court time and time again. Keep in mind, this was the same state where Jack Phillips, the cake baker, he refused to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding because he said it would violate his conscience. Colorado tried to say he had to. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. That violates the First Amendment. Just last term, you had Childs versus Salazar, where Colorado tried to force a Christian therapist to say that no, she had to affirm the chosen gender of her patients, even though she said doing so would violate her free speech rights. Again, the Supreme Court rebuked Colorado. So I suspect the Supreme Court would not have taken this case unless they thought Colorado may have gone astray once again. We'll have to wait and see. But look, this is going to be a big term once again, Chris. I know we say that every year, but one of the cases maybe we can dive into a little bit next week or in the coming weeks is a case called Suncor Energy versus the county commissioners of Boulder, Colorado. This is another Colorado case where essentially Boulder and the state of Colorado are trying to weaponize state tort law to go after and try to bankrupt oil and gas companies, alleging that they cause climate change and that they should be responsible for millions or billions or even trillions of dollars of damages in some instances.
Zach, we're going to be talking to you about those cases in the upcoming days and weeks. We're also going to be closely following this Tupac case, so make sure you are on that. We want all the details.
Well, I'll put in another shameless plug. You can follow me on Instagram and YouTube at ZackOnLaw, at ZACK on law.
And that is Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. On X, he's at tzsmithheritage.org. Zack, thank you so much for your time, my friend, and we'll speak with you again next Wednesday.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Boy, he's becoming just a regular star. I never thought I would hear Zack Smith talking about the Tupac Shakur murder case.
I love how he, right out of the gate, he's like, well, if you go to my Instagram page, I did a video on this, and he's become quite the media superstar.
And he knew the popular street phrase of snitches get stitches.
Right off the bat.
I was highly impressed with that.
Indeed.
All right, 444, Chris's Corner, when the FBI protected Biden instead of investigating him. We'll dive into that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
But the plan is to show you that I understand. You all appreciate it. Dear mama.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a low risk for an isolated storm this evening. Another chance for an isolated storm on Thursday as well, and another hot day. The First Alert weather days for intense heat and humidity continue. The low 80 Thursday morning, and then a high of 96. Heat index to 106. Clouds and maybe a storm could make it a little cooler, but I wouldn't count on it. Again, the rain chance only about 20%. Friday looks dry and hot, partly cloudy with a high of 98 and a heat index to 106. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
Hey, are you looking for a great restaurant where the atmosphere and the ambience are terrific? Well, let me tell you about Becky and I's go-to place. It's called Timothy's in Creve Coeur. It's led by executive chef Will Mabry. Timothy's serves what they call contemporary American cuisine with a touch of Southern charm. What is that? It's dishes like pastrami, smoked lamb, shrimp, and grits. And my wife, she absolutely loved the lobster pot pie. Everything that we've tried at Timothy's has been absolutely incredible. Timothy's also features amazing house-made desserts and over 600 wines to choose from. Enjoy dinner 7 nights a week, plus lunch, brunch, and private events. Timothy's in Belleville Plaza in Creve Coeur at 12710 Olive Boulevard or online at timothysstl.com. Tell them Chris Arps sent you when you get there.
You never know who you'll run into at Sugar Creek Golf Course. Stop by the News Talk VIP Lounge inside the Sugar Creek Clubhouse and catch familiar faces like Jamie Allman, Mike Ferguson, Tim Jones, Nick Schroer, and more from the News Talk STL team. Grab a cold drink, say hello, and take in the atmosphere. And before you leave, swing by the Pro Shop to pick up your official News Talk STL polo. The Sugar Creek Pro Shop is the only place you can get one. It's all happening at Sugar Creek, so don't miss it.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story. This month, 1934, the first prisoners arrived at Alcatraz.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The only thing that I say about my dad, about his health right now, is I wish he would complain more, because it's not good. The cancer has spread, is metastasized into his bones and further. It's very painful. And it's very debilitating in many respects, but he's still out there.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
And sad news there about former President Joe Biden. We're on the opposite sides of the political aisle, of course, but I wish him and his family all the best. Cancer can be a very debilitating illness, and it seems like it is starting to get worse for the president. I hope that his pain eases, and when it comes that time, he has an easy transition. For years, whenever damaging information surfaced about Joe Biden or his family, Democrats and their allies had a magic phrase that made the story disappear. Russian disinformation. Hunter Biden's laptop, Russian disinformation. Questions about Burisma, Russian disinformation. Republicans investigating the Biden's foreign business dealings, apparently they were helping Russia too. But newly declassified intelligence documents suggest that his narrative wasn't merely promoted by the Biden campaign and repeated by a compliant media. It may have been reinforced inside the FBI itself. According to reporting from Just the News, the FBI and other intelligence agencies received derogatory information concerning Joe Biden from at least 14 confidential human sources. Now, let's be precise. The existence of 14 informants does not prove that every allegation they supplied was true. Informant information must be investigated and corroborated, but that is exactly the point. Instead of following the evidence wherever it led, the FBI reportedly created a secret counterintelligence operation called Round River that gathered allegations involving Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Burisma, and Ukraine, and then worked to flag that information as possible Russian disinformation. The operation reportedly identified Attorney General Bill Barr, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Republican senators, members of Congress, and journalists as potential conduits for Russian propaganda. Think about the enormity of that. The sitting Attorney General and Secretary of State weren't fringe internet personalities. They were two of the highest-ranking officials in the United States government. Yet because they were connected to investigations that could damage Joe Biden politically, the FBI reportedly placed them in a category associated with carrying Russian disinformation. Democrats such as Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and John Kerry were reportedly listed as potential targets of Russian disinformation. Republicans investigating the allegations were listed as potential conduits. What an incredibly convenient arrangement. Democrats were the victims, Republicans were the suspects. And the FBI got to decide which allegations the American people should take seriously. The documents reportedly show that analysts even added intelligence products to the files of 3 longtime confidential sources, indicating that their reporting had been deemed Russian disinformation. But a later intelligence review concluded that the Round River team had not corroborated the underlying Ukraine allegations. That wording matters. It doesn't say investigators disproved every allegation. It says they did not corroborate them. There is a tremendous difference between investigating a claim and failing to prove it and labeling the claim Russian disinformation before the evidence has been fully tested. This is what happens when law enforcement stops acting like an impartial investigator and begins behaving like a political narrative management operation. The FBI's job was not to protect Joe Biden from damaging allegations. Its job was not to protect Donald Trump either. Its job was to investigate credible information honestly, determine what was true, and tell political considerations to take a hike. We also know that Hunter Biden's laptop was real. We know Hunter received substantial payments from foreign interests. We know Joe Biden reportedly interacted with some of his son's business associates, despite claiming that he never discussed Hunter's business. None of that automatically proves every allegation made about Joe Biden, but it certainly proves that asking questions was not Russian disinformation. The real scandal may be bigger than what the informants allege. It may be that powerful people inside the federal government decided that investigating one presidential candidate was national security necessity, while investigating the other was itself a national security threat. If these documents hold up under congressional scrutiny, Americans deserve more than another internal review. They deserve names. They deserve testimony under oath. They deserve to know who authorized Round River, who approved these classifications, whether investigations were obstructed, and whether defensive briefings were used to derail legitimate congressional oversight. Because elections cannot remain free if federal law enforcement has the power to quietly decide which candidates receive scrutiny and which candidates receive protection. For years, whenever damaging information surfaced about Joe Biden or his family, Democrats and their allies had a magic phrase that made the story disappear: Russian disinformation. Republicans investigating the Biden's foreign business dealings, apparently they were helping Russia too. Also, because elections cannot remain free if federal law enforcement has the power, as I said, to quietly decide which candidates receive scrutiny and which candidates receives protections. And that is Chris's Corner. I ask you to follow me on X at Chris_Arps and on Facebook, Christopher Arps Politics. Tim, the deep state rises again.
All we have to do is all live long enough, and we'll learn that almost everything we were told over the last 10 to 12 years was largely concocted. All the things that we were told that were conspiracy theories, that they're right-wing conspiracy theories, that we're just imagining this stuff, we're making it up in our heads. There's nothing to see here except for what we tell you. Man, were we fed a long-winded narrative about so much of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And it turns out, as Vic and Ken say every morning, the opposite of all that was true.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke here, and the fact that Joe Biden auto-pinned his son and his family seems to prove all of these allegations correct. I hope that we get to the bottom of this. I hope that Republicans keep control of Congress so they can investigate these matters further. Mm-hmm. All right, the latest on the Iran-United States war situation. Tim, the Houthi militants attacked a cargo ship in the Red Sea. They killed 6. This is the first deadly strike in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in a year. Look like the Houthis are ginning up the war. Also reading reports that Iran is reorganizing its top military ranks and shifting to a more offensive posture. It's a signal they may be preparing for a more protracted regional conflict. As I said before, I think that the window for major military operations against Iran is closing. This needed to be concluded by September. I think Iran knows that. And as I said over the past couple of months, I fear for when September and October comes, because they know that we have elections. And I think what we're seeing now, the belligerents, the attacks on their Arab neighbors and trying to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, and their Houthi militants obstructing this strait in the Red Sea, I think they're going to become even more and more belligerent, and that makes me fearful for the midterm elections, because affordability, of course, is a major issue. Mm-hmm. And if gas prices and oil prices are rising in September and October, I'm fearful that Americans will try to look for an alternative and will put these democratic socialists into office.
Yeah, it seems that like the issue of the war itself has sort of subsided. Like you don't see the headlines every day. You don't see the left losing their minds. You don't see a lot of this. It's like they've moved on to other things. However, the economy is always front and center. So even though people may not be overly exacerbated about the war effort itself, they will look at their monthly statements and what they're spending on. Gas is down from its all-time highs. It's back in the 70s per barrel, but it's not where it was before the war. And so if people's economic tensions are aggravating them, that's what they're going to vote on at the ballot box. So a couple more months to turn this around, but tick-tock, time is getting short.
Yeah, it's becoming very short. And if Iran starts major operations in September and October, and oil prices spike very high in gas prices, that cannot bode well for the Republicans' chances in these midterm elections. All right, Speaker's Dumb Speech.
Go woke. Go broke.
And we'll have a new guest, Tiffany Smiley. She's founder of Endeavor PAC. We'll ask her about last night's results and the midterm elections. And at the end of the show, we'll talk about Americans have named this as a leading risk to their safety. All that coming up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
Mark your calendar for the annual Leadership for America Dinner 2026, Friday, September 25th at the St. Charles Convention Center Grand Ballroom. Join News Talk STL for an unforgettable evening featuring keynote speaker Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who exposed the alleged fraud in Minneapolis, plus additional speakers and guests, dinners included. So come hungry for great food and bold ideas. For tickets and more information, visit newstalkstl.com.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, ephes, drive-it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
JC's Wayback Machine.
Sunday is the anniversary of the King falling off the throne, so we'll crack open our extensive Elvis file. The Beatles performed at Busch Stadium this week in '66. We'll remember the stadium worker whose only job that day was to keep the boys from being electrocuted. And who are these people who talked to the Post and expressed mixed reactions about GNR being here Sunday? Brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. On News Talk STL.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
This hour from Town Hall, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Donald Trump says White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will be leaving the administration at the end of the month to spend time with her young family. Leavitt recently returned to work after taking leave following the birth of her second child, a daughter, in May. She also has a 2-year-old son. Leavitt described the decision as bittersweet. A historic and destructive storm tore through across Indiana yesterday. Indiana Governor Mike Braun says Tuesday's storm was a statewide disaster, bringing winds over 90 miles an hour to some areas and flooding to others.
And there were places down like around Newcastle, Henry County, got up to 10 inches of rain. So where it was mostly wind up here and losing power in that neck of the woods, roads were being washed out. There were a lot of water rescues. So this was quite a storm that moved across our state.
Officials have declared a state of emergency. One person was killed in Portage, Indiana, when a home exploded during the storm. A look at one of the closest watched races in Wisconsin primaries yesterday.
In Wisconsin, Francesca Hong losing to Milwaukee County Executive moderate David Crowley by a percentage point. Even though she's a Democrat socialist, Bernie Sanders and AOC did not endorse her. Video had surfaced of Hong saying she hates holidays, including Thanksgiving, and then she backtracked, doing a new video saying it was her favorite holiday. Crowley is looking to become Wisconsin's first black governor. He faces Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany, who was endorsed by President Trump.
Correspondent Laura Winters reporting. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 21 points, the Nasdaq rose 143, the S&P advanced 20. More at townhall.com.
You've probably heard all those ads for life insurance. Just a few dollars a day, apply online in minutes, no medical exam. Simple, easy, and cheap, right? Now you're thinking, maybe I should get a quote. Well, smart thinking. Everyone should have life insurance. But here's what they don't tell you. Those few dollars a day rates, they're for young people in perfect health. That's why everyone calls Big Lou the 50 to 60-year-old not-so-perfect candidate. Like you. You take prescription meds, and you're overweight. Winner, winner, fried chicken dinner. Well, Big Lou works with life insurance companies that want people like you, with no surprises after you apply. In fact, if you're a 50-year-old guy with a few health glitches, Lou could probably find you $1 million of term life coverage for about $200 a month. So, yeah, you need life insurance. But unless you're young and healthy, you gotta call Big Lou, because he's like you, older, heavier, and on meds, too. Get a quote right now at 800-555-2085. 800-555-2085 or biglou.com.
Here's the
from the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a low risk for an isolated storm this evening. Another chance for an isolated storm on Thursday as well, and another hot day. The First Alert weather days for intense heat and humidity continue. The low 80 Thursday morning, and then a high of 96, heat index to 106. Clouds and maybe a storm could make it a little cooler, but I wouldn't count on it. Again, the rain chance only about 20%. Friday looks dry and hot, partly cloudy with a high of 98 and a heat index to 106. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
I saw Curtis Carrell earlier this afternoon. We were all out at the unveiling, the grand opening of the Rick Pogue gun range out on his beautiful property out in Wright City. He built a beautiful gun range dedicated to the Freedom 13. Curtis Carrell was out there. He's a big believer in the Second Amendment, freedom, and liberty. And that's why I want you to become a big believer in Carrell Roofing Company. Carrell Roofing Company can be found online 24/7 at CarrellRoofingCo.com. That's 2 R's and 2 L's. CarrellRoofingCo.com. They are your favorite new roofing company in the region. If you go to CarrellRoofingCo.com, you can see all the services they provide. The service areas, pretty much, greater St. Louis County, all the collar counties. They're based in the county of St. Charles. They service the entire region. Curtis Carrell has over 20 years in the roofing business, so he's in his third decade of roofing in this region. And not only does Carrell Roofing Company do roofing, because that's in the name, they also do siding and gutters as well. So if your home has been damaged by storms, or if you're not sure if it has, get Curtis Carrell and the gang out to your home, and they'll get up on your roof, they'll check out your siding and gutters, and then they'll give you an honest assessment of what needs to be repaired, fixed, or replaced. If you need a full replacement, something that's going to involve the insurance company, then they're going to work with the insurance company. They know how to deal with these adjusters. They've got so much experience, like I said, decades of experience in the business. And they're going to have, you're going to experience the Carrell Roofing Company expert craftsmanship. They're so good at what they do. I've been to their brick and mortar store. Yep, they are not a fly-by-night operation. Don't hire any of those storm chasers, folks. The Carrell Roofing Company is based in this region, right here in our backyard. They are locally owned, independently owned, and family owned, based in the county of St. Charles. You can give them a call today at 314-222-9529, or better yet, just go to CarrellRoofingCo.com. That's CarrellRoofingCo.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Why was it too dangerous for you to fly on Air Force One, but not
I don't know.
too dangerous
I
for the
think
press?
actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk.
Why
I think
do you
it was
say
at
that?
greater risk because that would be the plane I think that they would be
more likely to go for it? Well, it's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
That's the media trying to make a controversy once again out of nothing. The president follows orders. He actually does from the Secret Service. And when it comes to his life and safety after multiple assassination attempts, President Trump has learned to do exactly what the Secret Service tells him. That's the end of the story on that story.
And the amazing thing, I was watching MS Now yesterday, and they're making a big deal on, well, there wasn't a lot of transparency with to the American people about this. I'm like, this is for the president's safety. Do you want the American people knowing in advance that he's going to switch planes and the other plane is a decoy? Of course there was no transparency. This is the president's safety. They were actually trying to make an issue about that yesterday.
Yeah, go to North Korea and ask for government transparency. These media people do not know how good that they have it. We have a First Amendment in this country, and even the folks who are bothered by the media and harassed by the media, a lot of people will say, I will defend the media's right to the First Amendment. But the media in our country, they're coddled, they're little princes and princesses, and they don't know how good they have it versus what people have to jump through hoops in other countries just to get anywhere near a story. And Donald Trump, whatever you think about him, love him, hate him, somewhere in between, he has been an extremely transparent president. The guy gives press conferences on the fly when he's moving from one room to another on a daily basis.
Yeah, and in this case, I don't care about transparency when it comes to the president's safety. If you don't tell the media that the president is switching planes to keep him safe, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, but the media and the American people, we don't have the right to know everything. There are some things that are classified, and they're classified for a reason. There's some things we learn about after the fact for a reason. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter if you like them or not. There's certain things you do because of the office, because that's stability for the entire world. Could you imagine what would happen? Whenever we've unfortunately had assassinations in our nation's history, they have been some of the most tumultuous times ever. So you know what we do? We try to avoid them as best we can.
And I do have very, very slight empathy for the members of the press who are on that plane because they, you can't trust them. You can't tell them beforehand that the president is not going to be on this plane. He's taking another plane. But I have slight empathy for them because they were kind of sitting ducks and kind of decoy that if Iran did pull off a assassination attempt, unfortunately, they were on that plane and the president wasn't on the plane. And if we had a press corps that we could trust, you would tell them in advance and know that they aren't going to divulge this, but you can't trust them. So, yes, you were kind of decoy sitting ducks, but if you were trustworthy and the president and the administration could trust you, then you would have been told that.
Yeah, and I hate to broad brush it because some of the media folks are honest to goodness journalists who are just trying to get the truth out, and some of them are very brave. I mean, you look at the pictures of who comes to mind, Trey Yingst, Fox News. I've seen that guy more in a full flak jacket vest as bombs are dropping around him than any other reporter. What about Benjamin Hall, who almost died in Ukraine? He was the Fox News reporter who his cameraman and his assistant were both killed in an IED attack early in the Ukraine-Russian war. Benjamin was seriously injured. He is permanently disfigured. I think he has a glass eye now. And he just now returned to reporting about a year ago, so wrote a book about it. So I do appreciate the good reporters who definitely put themselves in harm's way to bring us to the story.
And speaking of war zones, 1 year ago today, Tim, you and I visited the Nova Music Festival, and we also visited the October 7th Remembrance Museum. And I'll never forget the story of that young mother who lost two of her teenage daughters on the October 7th attack. There wasn't a dry eye in the place.
Very somber part of the trip. It was a mixture of happiness, joy, and a lot of tragedy in the state of Israel. Speaker Stump Speech in just a moment. Going woke, going broke. Tiffany Smiley, founder of Endeavor PAC. Thoughts on last night's primaries and a look ahead to the midterms. All that is up next, right after we do today's Speaker's Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
They just put out their new platform, defund Department of Defense, replace the president, Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress, prosecute U.S. and Israeli leaders responsible for the genocide in Gaza, ending economic warfare against Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran. Sounds like satire, it's not. And a 32-hour work week. How do you think, what is your sense of how the average, actually working class American feels about these statements?
I think the average American just wants some functionality in our system. They want things to work well. People think this is crazy pie in the sky stuff, and they're absolutely right that it is. And it would unleash a degree of chaos and violence in our society that we have not experienced for a very, very long time.
Chaos and violence in our society. You know who just said that? That was not a Republican consultant. That was not a Republican elected official. That was not a Fox News commentator. That was an escapee. That was a refugee from the DSA. That is former Democrat Socialists of America member Jake Altman admitting that the newly released and updated DSA platform, just in time for Christmas, would be a disaster for the United States of America. So this is a hardcore left-wing liberal who somehow had an awakening, an epiphany, and is saying, I don't think this is what I signed up for, and I don't think this is something that should be pursued. That was a conversation he had with Maya Sulkin on her show, The Free Press Confessions. And she had a tough time getting through some of that platform stuff because she was laughing at some of it. She was like, some of this stuff sounds just absolutely insane. And Jake agreed. Now, you're seeing an interesting phenomenon because many in the Democratic Party are realizing that the phrase that many of us on the right created, used, tagged them with, go woke, go broke, is possibly going to hurt them. Now, it may or may not hurt them in the midterms. As we keep saying over and over again, history would seem to suggest, especially in very close regions, in very close races, overall, you have a, 2-seat majority in the U.S. House, a 4-seat majority in the U.S. Senate. Anything can happen. And when the party in power is in its late term, this is basically the second term. This is basically the second midterm of Donald Trump's second term, which is usually the absolute worst for the party in power. But the Democrats are not helping themselves. And you're seeing that even from some of the ones that used to be the most hardcore leftists like AOC pulling back from some of the woke. Saw a ton of headlines this week because AOC actually did an interview on one of the national news networks, and she talked about the fact that woke 1.0, her words, not mine, woke 1.0 was kind of a laughable disaster, and that woke 2.0 needs to be more focused on the things that they're trying to focus on this time around. The economy, affordability, whether the wars are going on too long, et cetera, and so forth. The left is acting like they never supported their own woke policy. So AOC is kind of pointing out that there's a shift going on, but she's not apologizing for the insanity that she was part of in woke 1.0. Recent article says a recent trend has emerged as the midterm election gets closer. While any party that's out of power has always tried to appease the great middle of America, as not geographically, I'm talking philosophically, the moderate voter, the independent, the gaslighting from the uber left is next level. It started when New York City Council member Chi Ose, a Democratic socialist, self-described, posted on X how woke 1, again, woke 1.0, was crazy, appearing to refer to the time period of 2020 to 2024. Woke 1 has since become a meme in and of itself, but it exemplifies how the left is now trying to distance themselves from the insane policies that they created, that they pushed not a decade or two ago, but just a few years ago, largely out of instances like the George Floyd incident, largely out of the COVID scamdemic and more when Joe Biden and Democrats were in power. When they were in power, I think they kind of felt like we can go and we can push the envelope as far as we want because Donald Trump will never be back in office and we're here to stay. Other folks, on Sunday, Representative AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she doubled down on that. She was asked about the Wisconsin gubernatorial candidate, Francesca Hong, disavowing her political opinions that she espoused within the last 10 years. AOC said, I think a lot of these races, even the ones right now, they'll have a tendency to be nationalized. But those races are ultimately local. She's also moved away from it. AOC said the same thing. Woke one was crazy. These were all the things that the left was embracing. You know, the CRT, the DEI, the ESG, all their alphabet soup acronyms, the transgender mutilation procedures, which unfortunately for them, many of these DSA socialists haven't quite got the memo on that. What were some of the positions that Hong, who lost last night, barely held when Woke 1.0 was popular? Hong said that she felt uncomfortable being in a Culver's restaurant because there's a lot of white people there. She advocated for a full defunding of the police. Remember that? That was a big movement. She described having a half-white son as being in proximity to whiteness, whatever that means. She said that Thanksgiving should be canceled as a holiday because it celebrates colonialism and the patriarchy. She wanted to make racial identity and talking about the role of race ubiquitous in all public school classrooms. That's just one Democratic candidate among many who were either members of or closely aligned with today's Democratic Socialists. Faced with the unpopularity of some of their positions, now they're even trying to rewrite the history of what they said, what they did, and what they stood for during Woke 1.0. Abdul El Sayed, Democratic nominee in Michigan's Senate race, he told Meet the Press that everyone agreed that 2020 cancel culture was a bad idea. Really? They now believe that? They were the cheerleaders for all of it. El Sayed said on Hassan Piker's show, to sit here and play gotcha politics with a dumb thing that somebody said out of context, I want to be held accountable for what I say and what I do rather than this idea that we're so stuck in cancel culture that all of us agreed was a bad idea back in 2020. Are they? Has there been a national memo on that? Or are they just trying to rewrite history, act like it never happened, not really answer questions about it, never apologize, and now just move on to Woke 2.0? You know, the idea that the affordability crisis was not actually caused by Joe Biden, that every economic problem in the world has to be blamed on Donald Trump and Republicans, that Democrats are not simply going to get back in office and spend and tax their ways into oblivion. The rewriting of history, Democrats are professionals at it. The media are always willing accomplices to it, which is why they'll probably get away with it unless Americans have better short-term memories. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
And, you know, I don't know what the final polling was for Francesca Hong's race before the election, but I don't know if the polling really got it all that wrong. I think she did have a huge lead when the media was just focusing on her as the new candidate, DSA. But I think once her views started coming to light about eliminating Thanksgiving and all of that, I think the voters said, nah, this is not the direction that we want to go. And I think her lead just evaporated. The candidate that was running against her, and all of them say this, of course, but he said he felt the momentum shifting in the last few weeks of the campaign, and it seemed that the voters were coming towards him. I think that is the situation with her. I think the voters looked at her and said, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it happened fast, though. New York, actually, and was it New York Times? New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
New York Times has a story today, the headline, how the polls got it so wrong in Washington. She had a double-digit lead
14
5 days ago.
Yeah.
But in today's 24/7 Twitter, Facebook world, bad news travels fast if people are paying attention.
Yeah.
And so when you have something as stupid as you want to cancel Thanksgiving and all this racial stuff she was bringing up, she was sounding like a Democrat from 2020, which they're trying to move on from that.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to move to Woke 2.0. And the party recognized that. AOC, Bernie Sanders stayed away. So if there's bad news, if it can travel fast, yeah, it can erode a lead, even a big one, if something really wacky does come out and they don't try to bury it.
Yeah, and 5 days ago was when her views really started to come to light, and I think her lead just evaporated slowly but surely.
And look at what happened to some of these candidates. They didn't even stay in their races. Eric Swalwell, bad news came out about him. Boom, he was gone in about 48 hours. The fellow in Maine, Graham Plattner. Graham Plattner, bad news came about him. He didn't wait for the election. He jumped out as well. Bad news travels fast these days in our 24/7 media world.
Exactly.
522 in the Heartland. We've got Tiffany Smiley standing by. She's the founder of Endeavor PAC. We're going to talk to her about last night's primaries, what she thought the results mean? What do they mean as we head towards November? Will the Democratic Party stop rallying behind socialist candidates, or is this just the tip of the iceberg? All that straight ahead. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94 on News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a low risk for an isolated storm this evening. Another chance for an isolated storm on Thursday as well, and another hot day. The First Alert weather days for intense heat and humidity continue. The low 80 Thursday morning, and then a high of 96. Heat index to 106. Clouds and maybe a storm could make it a little cooler, but I wouldn't count on it. Again, the rain chance only about 20%. Friday looks dry and hot, partly cloudy with a high of 98 and a heat index to 106. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Saw Chad Hansen this afternoon as well out at the Rick Pogue unveiling of the big Freedom 13 shooting range out there in Wright City. Asked him, I said, you guys busy? He said, heck yeah. He goes, nobody wants to get out and prune trees and stuff like that, but we're doing it. And that's a great point. Unless you're a professional, unless you've got all the proper tools and the safety gear, the last thing you should be doing is trying to prune trees with 106 heat index, like Steve Templeton just said there. Call the experts. Call the experts at Hansen's Tree Service. They know how to get in, get out, do it right, do the job right the first time, clean up their mess, and make it look like they were never there. I can personally attest to that because we've had Hansen's out to the home several times. You can find them at hansenstree.com, by the way. We've had them out because they are the experts in tree care. They provide expert-insured tree care. We have used them to try to save a couple trees. I might have waited too long on this one, so I'm probably going to have Hansen's back out in the spring. But we had a big old elm tree, and they are susceptible to that emerald ash borer. Ash trees and elm trees especially are susceptible to something. Doesn't that sound nasty? Yeah, it is. The emerald ash borer. It just gets in your trees and it just messes with them. The minute you see a tree starting to fail, like the minute you start seeing too many leaves falling off, get Hansen's out there because a lot of times they can rescue the trees. I probably waited too long, but here's the good news. I will have Hansen's out if we have to take down the tree. They'll do it expertly. They'll grind up the stump. They'll cover up the patch. And then I can have them put a new tree in right next to it, and we'll grow another one. And I'll probably have to switch to something that's a little more borer resistant. Hansen's also provides awesome organic mulch. You can order that online. You can apply for hassle-free estimates. 6 months, same as cash. 6 months, same as cash financing for improved customers and clients, and so much more. They also, they not only service the entire eastern Missouri region, St. Louis County, St. Charles, all the collar counties, they will provide you services at the Lake of the Ozarks as well because they do grinding and land clearing. They do all sorts of tree care, green resource recycling, and so much more. 24/7, there's an emergency line in case you need them. Hope you don't, but they're there if you need them. 24/7, 365, hansenstree.com. That's hansenstree.com.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs, attorney at law, has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs, attorney at law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Right now, this is from President Trump on Truth Social. Our wonderful White House press secretary and one of my most trusted aides, Caroline Leavitt, will be departing her role at the end of the month so that she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. A decision I totally understand and respect. Caroline will now be one of my top outside advisors. Thank you, Caroline, for a job well done.
Yeah, very amicable words there from Donald Trump as Caroline Leavitt heads to the important job of motherhood. We're going to talk to Tiffany Smiley about Caroline Leavitt and a ton of other stories of the day. Tiffany is the founder of Endeavor Pack, endeavorpack.com, and you can find Tiffany on Instagram at Tiffany M. Smiley. Tiffany, good afternoon. Welcome to St. Louis's News Talk STL.
Hello, glad to be on with you guys.
Yeah, it's great to speak with you as well. Tiffany, I'm a big fan of Caroline Leavitt. I'm wondering if you are as well. I'm going to miss her behind that press podium. She always brought the heat and the hilarity. She had fun with the press, and she also knew her stuff, man, inside and out without a binder.
Amazing. I actually got to know her a little bit when I was running for Senate in Washington State in 2022, and she actually ran for Congress. I don't know if many people know that.
I did not.
And so we were both kind of running at the same time and would run into each other in Washington, D.C. She's amazing. She's a fighter. She's everything that's good about Republican and conservative politics. And, having kids, it changes you. It shifts your perspective. You have to readjust, and it's something women are brilliant at. So I'm sure she's just taking a moment to be with her family and has served this country greatly. But there will be more to come from her. I'm 100% certain.
Tiffany, you have a very interesting story. As you said, you have run for Senate and Congress in Washington State, but you also have a husband who was injured in Iraq from a roadside bomb, and you became his caregiver. Tell us a little bit about that incident, and we also want to thank him for his service as well.
Yeah. It obviously changed my life as well. And, people always ask, like, oh, why did you get into politics? And I always say it's because politics found me. And I think more and more Americans are waking up to the fact that if you are not involved in politics, to some degree, whether it's just simply voting or involved in a civic level in your community, it can all be taken away very, very quickly. It's something that has to be fought for. I saw the discrepancies in our government at a very, very young age. Experiencing the trauma of war and completely life-altering circumstances. I had to stand up and fight in a way that I honestly didn't think I would ever have to in this country, but I'm grateful that I just never took no for an answer and that I believed in a better path, not just for Scotty, but for hundreds of catastrophically injured veterans and their families. It was really terrible what was going on. Congress is really quick to, pull the purse strings and vote to go to war. They had no idea. Completely incapable of taking care of those veterans and families when they returned with catastrophic injuries. So it's been a massive uphill battle. But I always say, in what other country can you take on the government, advocate for change and see it implemented and ask for a better way? That's why we are in the greatest country on earth. But I have to tell people, we look at what we're facing today in our country with communism, really, socialism, these socialist candidates and young voters who are seeing it sort of as a badge of honor, that we have an obligation to teach these younger generations about the freedom that we have in this country, that it is not free, that it can be taken away at any moment if we do not stand up and fight for it, and do everything we can to make a difference. I don't care if you win or lose races, it's your voice, and it's the freedom that we have in this country to fully express our views and our values, and we have to keep doing it.
Speaking with Tiffany Smiley, media personality, political contributor, former U.S. Senate candidate, and founder of Endeavor Pack. Tiffany, let's talk about the elections, the midterms that are coming up. Let's talk about Endeavor Pack. Endeavor Pack, I think it's great that you took an experience in politics and then turned it into something that's an actual thing that is doing stuff. What is Endeavor Pack, and what is your focus with that?
Yes, so when I ran for U.S. Senate in Washington State, I really was a political outsider, just tried and true in the real world, and had obviously taken on the government and other measures and worked with President Trump on different issues in his first term. And so, I had watched my kids have to experience COVID, and so I knew, hey, if I can make a difference, I'm going to run for U.S. Senate. And that we did. We, made a huge splash. I was able to raise over $20 million, the most that's ever been raised by a candidate here in Washington State, a Republican candidate. And so had a huge, support from across the country, really, truly. And so even though we didn't win, I knew that I could still pay it forward. And I knew that I could do something with the support and the voters and the donations that we received. And so I started Endeavor PAC to help candidates just like myself, political outsiders, people who are tried and true in the real world, who see the problems in government and want to get in and roll up their sleeves and actually get work done. And so it's fun, and with that, I get to, frequent media. I go on national media on almost a daily basis to share sort of my can-do farm girl American dream attitude, belief in this country and backing and supporting those candidates that are the same. We need a shakeup in Congress. We need to be able to get people in there that know how to win in the real world and aren't afraid to take on big government. And so that's, it's fun. One of my favorite candidates that I'm backing and supporting this cycle is Michelle Tafoya. She just had a huge victory in her Minnesota Senate race. So I'm very excited to continue to watch her race and support her in any way we can.
Tiffany, that is one example of a person that is conservative running in a blue and purple state. That is the mission of Endeavor PAC. Give us a few more examples of candidates that you will be supporting in blue and purple states.
Yeah, well, I'm also backing quite a few congressional candidates in battleground states as well. I'm also watching very closely the governor race in California. I love Steve Hilton. I was on his show many times before he decided to run for governor of California. But I think it's really important that we support these candidates that are in battleground or blue or purple states because we have to show that our map is wide and that we're not going to give in and we're not going to give up and that we have a deep bench, a variety, or I guess you could say unique, talents within the Republican Conservative Party that we're not going away and that we are expansive and building and growing. And so it's exciting. Anyone can go to my website. All the candidates that I support are on my website at endeavorpac.com. And you can read a little bit more about my story and why I launched it and the work that I'm doing going forward.
Tiffany, give us your take on the rise of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Tiffany, I think a lot of Republicans think, well, hey, this is great for us, maybe in the short term. But, Tiffany, I'm troubled by the fact that this is taking root anywhere in America. These people are virulently anti-American. They want to destroy the foundation of the country, and they're blaming it all on racism and colonialism and the patriarchy and blah, blah, blah. But they seem to be gaining traction like never before.
Yeah, I mean, I always say never in a million years did I think I would be talking about socialism and communism in my lifetime and watching these candidates get elected. Over a year ago, I was talking about Mamdani on the news frequently, and I remember thinking there's no way someone like that will win. And then he won, and he didn't just win, but then he is sort of now the leader and the kingmaker of the of the Democrat Party. We watched as the congressional candidates in New York that he backed all won their races. He is the kingmaker. He is the man. And the Democrat Party has a reckoning, coming ahead because they're now rallying and backing candidates like Al-Said in Michigan, who just won, who is, and I say this all the time, like, it's not just his socialist or his crazy ideas. It's the fact that he's extremely anti-American that is so frightening to me. And it is troubling to see how Democrats are rallying behind him like this is going to be okay. And this is who their party now is. I don't think they have a big tent party. I always say they actually have the smallest circus tent, and the animals are getting weirder by the day. But they're selling a message to young voters that is resonating, and it's making these young voters who maybe feel disenfranchised by capitalism. Maybe they spent a lot of money at their higher education and they feel like they're owed something, and this in some way socialism makes sense to them, like this educated badge of honor. But I don't believe it'll stand in this country. It cannot stand there. I travel from coast to coast frequently, almost every week or every other week. And I meet the most incredible people across this country who are full of grit and hard work and still believe in the American dream. And I just don't see how it'll stand, but we cannot take it for granted. Republicans cannot sit back and just say, oh, they're crazy or communism will never take root in this country, because it is happening. And so we have to counter it. we can't just say they're crazy. We have to come up with solutions. We have to show that we're unified, that we're fighting for a greater good for this country, not just today, but for generations to come. And we have to be educating our youth and our voters. I know my boys are fully educated, but we need to make sure that the young voters of this country understand what they are voting for.
Tiffany, speaking of purple states, there is an unusual fundraising operation going on right now in Pennsylvania. Democratic Senator John Fetterman and Republican Senator Dave McCormick have formed a joint fundraising committee, which is very unusual. Do you think there is a future for something like this in politics?
I mean, that's encouraging to see. Not that long ago, I actually called out a Democrat strategist who I was on national TV with, and I said, yes, we're seeing independents and perhaps moderate Democrats, kind of coalesce with Republicans, or really it's just common sense. And my point was, no, I think it's just Americans coming together. Real Americans who believe in this country, who believe in our political system, who believe in our branches of government, who believe that good debate and arguments and coming to a solution is good for the country. I would love to see more of that. And maybe that's, what will come out of this on the other side, but we certainly can't sit back and not fight for it. I think that is encouraging to see, Fetterman come together. I feel bad for him because he's actually the only, I always say, is he the only moderate, common sense Democrat left in Congress? But I think there's others. I think they're just afraid to speak out, and they're afraid to use their voice. But yeah, it's time for Americans. I don't care what party you are, Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's time for common sense and for a path forward to preserve and protect our American dream that's been that's been fought for on every level.
Tiffany Smiley, our guest this afternoon, founder of Endeavor PAC. EndeavorPAC.com is where you can find information about that entity and more about Tiffany. Tiffany, your thoughts as we head towards the midterm primaries. What should Republicans, conservatives, anybody on the center-right side of the political spectrum who wants to save America, what should they be focused on? What should the messaging be as we head towards November? Only a few months away.
Yeah. Well, it's troubling because the crisis that we're facing is really the crisis that was engineered by the Democrats. You look at Build Back, I call it Build Back Broke, and the Green New Deal, and just the massive injection of cash into our system from the Biden administration, the bloated government, the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that was taking place. And thank goodness we have President Trump, because he got into office and reined it in. It is a huge reason why he won, because the American people understood that our country was going off of a cliff, financially, morally, ethically, on a lot of fronts. And President Trump came in and has taken a multifaceted approach to get it back. The amount of fraud that is being exposed in Obamacare, Medicare, I mean, we can go on and on. The big government agencies is astounding. It should never, ever happen again in our country. President Trump also secured our border. We had people coming into our country who absolutely hate us and taking advantage of the generosity of this amazing country, and using it against us and ripping off taxpayers. So President Trump is righting all those wrongs. And gas prices are starting to come down. The economy is starting to trend in the right direction. I also talk a lot about the jobs report. I'm like, look at the amount of jobs that are coming back to hardworking Americans. Like, we are getting it back. I think the Republicans need to be able to share that message and share not only that, but share that it's only going to get better. Your future in this country, your grandkids, your kids will be better off than you were if we can continue down this path with these policies that support growth, support the American way of life, and American freedom.
Tiffany, as someone who has run for office twice and is now the founder of a PAC, that money is the mother's milk of politics. We read reports that the DNC has had to take a loan against their headquarters in order to raise money.
Yeah.
We see that the Republican senatorial and House committees have far outraised their Democratic counterparts. We've got Donald Trump, who has $400 million in his campaign committee. Do you think that money advantage will help buck the tide of Republicans running in a year when the party in power usually loses House seats?
That signals that there's more and more Americans, regardless of party affiliation, that are willing to back the common sense party, that are willing to help get this country back on track. And it's really a problem for the Democrats. They are fractured. They have the DSA and they have the Democrat Party establishment, or status quo, if you will. And what we're seeing in these primary races is these DSA candidates are winning by slim margins, which I don't think it does not set up good fundraising measures for the Democrats. They're very split, so it shows like moderate Democrats probably aren't going to be wanting to give in this cycle because of the split and the fracture. And we have to ask, where are those voters going to go? I think the Republicans, if they have the funding and the opportunity, they have an opportunity to pitch those voters to maybe come over to the other side, or vote for a Republican. It's not that bad. And so it's certainly an advantage, but it has to be utilized effectively. And the message has to be very clear to the voters at the right time.
And that is Tiffany Smiley. She's the founder of Endeavor PAC and so much more, EndeavorPAC.com. Tiffany, we enjoy watching you up on the big screen. Thanks for joining us here on the radio today. We appreciated you, and we hope to have you back.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Very much. Tiffany Smiley there. Boy, she knows how to bring the heat.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
she
what,
does.
An energetic young lady, leader for now and the future. 5:44 in the PM. When we come back, I don't know if I can read my writing here. I can't. Something with, what did you say?
Americans name this as a leading risk to their safety.
A leading risk to safety is what I wrote down.
Very unusual, too.
What is a leading risk to their safety? Interesting. That and the story behind the story with Larry Connors USA. We'll tell you all about and more when we come back on today's Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a low risk for an isolated storm this evening. Another chance for an isolated storm on Thursday as well, and another hot day. The First Alert weather days for intense heat and humidity continue. The low 80 Thursday morning, and then a high of 96. Heat index to 106. Clouds and maybe a storm could make it a little cooler, but I wouldn't count on it. Again, the rain chance only about 20%. Friday looks dry and hot, partly cloudy with a high of 98 and a heat index to 106. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Ken and I survived no gravity day. A couple of bumps on the head. Other than that, we're good.
Yeah, Vic, and it's a good thing we survived because tomorrow we have Tony Kennett Thursday at 11:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
I've seen or been with all of my advertisers this week. I was at Comprehensive Chiropractic yesterday. Yes, man, the week's been flying by. I was with Dr. Caleb Gorman yesterday. My daughter was with me, and my older daughter Katie as well. She wanted to get an adjustment and get all fixed up proper before she headed back to college. She's a rising senior. Can't believe it. Comprehensive Chiropractic can take care. I tell you that story because Comprehensive Chiropractic can take care of young people, old people, everybody in between. They can take care of all kinds of injuries. My daughter is a long-distance runner. I'm more of a long-distance walker now. I used to run a lot, but, I'm more of a hill climber now. Carry the golf bag, out in the heat and all that kind of stuff. Drink lots of water. And so whatever your sport might be or not be, they can help you with that as well. They have got personal trainers at Comprehensive Chiropractic. They've got Pilates and yoga classes at Comprehensive Chiropractic. This is not just some little teeny tiny chiropractic office. This is a compound. This is a facility. Yes, they've got the chiropractic foundational care. It's very important. It is the building block. It is the bottom of the pyramid. But then as you go up, there's things you can add on. There's accessories you can add on, like the Pilates and yoga classes in their beautiful studio upstairs. Gorgeous place. They have licensed massage therapists that have been there forever. They're really good. The ladies are fantastic. They can help you out with all those muscular injuries. They have the dry needling as well. It's kind of like an acupuncture discipline. They have the laser light therapy. I've been a recipient of that. They can help you with your joint pain. They can help you with your back pain. I've been having it's called the IT band. It's like on your hip. And I've been doing a lot of sitting, working on campaign stuff this summer, but I need to get out and about. The more I walk and the more I exercise, that injury goes away. And Dr. Gorman pointed that out to me after he worked on it and explained what was going on. So whatever it might be, they can help you with it. They also have lots of supplements that are really good supplements. They'll ask you what your issues are having, and they may very well have something for that. your one-stop shop. They're at cchiropractic.com. Yes, they're at cchiropractic.com. They're comprehensive chiropractic. They are here and they are there for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
42% of Missouri fourth graders can barely read. 42%. It's the worst result in 20 years. If kids can't read by third grade, they fall behind in school, and many never catch up. But other states have provided a roadmap for success. Missouri needs one universal reading test for all third graders and one clear statewide standard for what it means to pass that test. A struggling reader who still can't read after extra help and a second chance at the test should repeat third grade with some exemptions. We also need to end the outdated 3Qing method, which encourages guessing instead of reading, and require teachers to be trained in the science of reading. In Mississippi and Indiana, test scores jumped up dramatically after these reforms, and Missouri can do the same. Missouri children deserve to become confident, capable readers, and strong early literacy reforms can make it happen. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by the Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
There's something magical about walking into your backyard and knowing your family is completely safe and secure. Hi, I'm Sean Long, owner of STL Fenceworks. That's the feeling my team and I have been creating for metro area families for more than 50 years. Whether you're adding your first fence or finally creating the outdoor sanctuary you've always wanted, we offer premium vinyl and stunning ornamental options, all designed around your family's specific needs and lifestyle. While other companies struggle with supply delays and rising costs, we've always proudly used all American-made materials, which means better pricing and faster installation for you. Our experienced craftsmen exemplify our motto, your satisfaction is our passion. From Warrenton to Wildwood, your neighbors trust us because we live here too. And we care about your project as much as you do. Right now is the golden time to build with flexible financing options and a commitment to completing your fence on time and on budget. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The Department of Homeland Security plans to spend upwards of $20 million to buy thousands of pairs of these de-escalation devices to outfit ICE officers and agents by March of next year. The agency plans to buy devices known as CTG5 gloves, and that stands for Generated Low Output Voltage Emitter. Think of it as an electric shock glove. Some jails and police departments use these. A company in Kentucky makes them, and they look like normal gloves, but with a press of a button, you activate an electrical mode.
5:50 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. And I got to tell you, I think that is an absolutely brilliant idea. I'd never heard of electric shock gloves before. But, you know, the liberals talk about de-escalation in these type of situations. What better to de-escalate a situation than to shock someone into submission?
Didn't we interview the guy with the taser guns? Right? Yeah, and it's kind of probably the same kind of technology where it's non-lethal force, but it puts the guy down, and so everybody's happy, right, Chris?
Exactly. Yeah. Joy, you played Coming In Their bumper music in the air tonight. You are our entertainment media person. What two shows, and one is a movie, one is a TV show, that made that song very, very popular? Can you tell me that? One was before your time.
Let's see. Is it Calderon's Return, the two-part episode from Miami Vice?
Yes. And what movie was that in?
I don't know what movie you're thinking of.
Risky Business.
Oh, there
That
you go.
was the scene where Tom Cruise and the young lady were on the subway in Chicago, and they were waiting for everyone to clear out of the subway, and then they did their risky business, and that song was playing. Do you remember that, Tim? That song was playing during that scene.
I think so. I know I watched the movie.
Yeah, one of my favorite all-time movies.
It's really great. And I think I remember that movie. I remember the song being in that movie. Very powerful tune.
I love that song. I love Phil Collins. It's sad what's happened to him. is he is not doing well.
How old is he now?
He's probably late 70s, I would say, 77,
least, right?
78
Yeah.
years old. He quit playing drums years ago because he had permanent nerve damage from playing the drums for so long. And he said the reason was he was always kind of at a bad angle while he was playing
really?
and never did really adjust it. So,
yeah,
it was like 20 years ago. He just stopped playing drums at all. He just became a singer.
You were right. He's 75 years old.
75. I knew he was somewhere around there. Tim, Americans are more likely than those living in any other nation to name politics as a leading risk to their safety.
Wow.
One in 10 U.S. adults identified politics as the greatest source of risk, quote unquote, to their daily safety, according to a new Gallup poll, up from 6% who said so in 2023 and 2021. The average proportion of people who said politics pose a safety risk across 140 countries is just 1%. In the U.S., the numbers are similar across party lines. So Democrats and Republicans' reasons for citing politics as a safety risk differ. Republicans blame Democrats, and Democrats point to the Trump administration, though respondents from across the ideological spectrum say partisan polarization is a factor. Overall, Americans say road accidents pose the biggest threat to their safety, followed by crime and violence. How can politics, I guess if the Democrats gin people up and get them angry and then they have these rage mobs and attack people, I guess that can pose your safety. But that kind of surprised me.
I've got a threat or two, but we're kind of anomalies, right? I that's interesting that like the average everyday American would say that, you know, who's not like, having to stick their neck out and do that kind of stuff, that politics would, that's very interesting. That's how much it's affecting people, I guess, these days.
Exactly. And I was telling you guys, I don't know if I said this on air, but the last couple of weeks, right before the August 4th primary, I was just getting so burnt out just reading and listening to all the stupid that was going on that I was ready to take my family reunion trip. I just needed to get away from it. And that would happen to me time and time again. Before I got on the radio, I follow politics very closely, but sometimes it would just get overwhelming to me, and I would just stop posting, just get away from it from a week. Can't do that as much now, but politics affects you.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I think this Amendment 3 battle may end up being just as bad.
Well, I hope we'll have more of our people on our side with Amendment 3 than on 4 and 5.
We have more, but you will not be shocked after everything we just went through to learn, Chris, that there are people who call themselves conservatives that say Amendment 3 is not good enough, and so they're going to vote no on it.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. When you have a proposal, look, they say, well, we should totally ban abortion. Okay, you're telling me that we should do that after we just had a vote 2 years ago where 51% of Missourians voted not for a total ban, right? They voted directly against that. What electorate do you think you're living in? You're not going to do a total ban. Amendment 3 gets us as close as possible to that and then allows the legislature to go back and go for increased opportunities to totally ban abortion. So
it's the purity, folks. You throw out the baby with the bathwater. Look, most Americans don't want to see abortion on demand. There has become a middle ground of 15 to 17 weeks to have an abortion. I'd like to see 0, but you've got to take where the public sentiment is. There is no sentiment right now to have 0 abortions. It's just not there.
And that's what these people want in Missouri. And if you put that on the ballot, it fails every single time. So you're not going to save 99.3% of the babies. You're going to not save any of them because the proposal before you is not good enough.
You have to get to the point ultimately with abortion or any moral issues. You have to change hearts and minds. You're not going to do that necessarily through politics. Joy, this one's for you. Paramount is threatening to leave California because the Attorney General is wanting to block their merger. I mean, you always think of Southern California. California is the place for movies. But, Tim, I'm going to give you 3 guesses, and I know you'll get it. What are the 3 states that Paramount is thinking about moving their headquarters and their production? I know you're going to get these 3 states.
You want me to go?
Yes.
Florida?
No.
Okay.
You think
Texas.
Texas.
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Oh, there's not
the
Florida.
third one. They're already moved. There's already production going on in this state.
Georgia.
Those are the 3 states that they are thinking about
Thank
moving.
you for the extra guess.
You just wouldn't think that California, that's the place where you make movies, but, you got to go where the business climate is hospitable. And Paramount may leave for greener pastures, I guess. All right. Great show today, guys. Larry Connors. Larry Connors USA is up next. Larry's story behind the story is the Alcatraz prison opened a long time ago. 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
For generic fishing gear? Say hello to Bullseye Bait and Tackle, O'Fallon's one-stop shop for serious anglers. Live bait, premium tackle, rods, reels, and an unbeatable selection of lures from top brands like Megabass, Zoom, and Berkley. Whether you're after bass, catfish, crappie, or bluegill, they've got the gear to help you land the big one. Plus, their expert team, led by Mark and Liz, provides rod and reel repair services. Bullseye Bait and Tackle, 266 Fort Zumwalt Square, or at bullseyebaitandtackle.net.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's